what kind of model am I setting? I leave at 5 in the morning, I get home at 5 o'clock at night, and I'm wiped. Is that how I want to live my life? Holy cow, are you kidding me? You just paid me $2,250 to help you for 3 months? I think I got something. No one shows up in your life the way your coach does. Not your wife, not your buddy, not your therapist. They care about you in a way that's very unique.
My guest today, his name is Keith. He's an outstanding startup entrepreneur for the solopreneur. If you're ever considering, like if you're listening to this right now in your cubicle and you fucking hate your life, this is the podcast guest for you. He's going to help you go from where you are right now to freedom. And after reaching the C-suite, you know, Keith asked himself, is this it? Keith decided to learn how to start his own solopreneur business. He believes in entrepreneurship is the true path to freedom. And we're going to talk a lot about freedom today. And now he helps people discover their purpose, turn it into a business, an idea, test it, then market it and sell the product or service. But he loves helping people, and that's the type of people we love having on this podcast. So first and foremost, man, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, 100%. Good to meet you. Excited to have this talk.
Okay, so let's start with this. Okay. I love that you mentioned freedom. So like what lack of freedom did you feel at that C-suite level? Because it's interesting. Like I would imagine similar to you or similar to me, when you start in a corporate world, I remember my first interview with the VP of sales and he goes, what do you want out of this? And I go, I want your job.
I want to run the place.
That was like my first thing. Right. And then you get there and you're like, man, like I thought there would be more freedom, but I'm like, fucking Jesus. So like talk to me about your experience and ultimately what led you to the idea of like, you know, I want to create my own path. I want to create my own thing.
Yeah. So my story is kind of crazy. I am 11 years clean and sober. So I had to start over from scratch at age 38. Had been doing great, had a great career, had to start over from the bottom. And that, you know, having to overcome those things meant I had to do a lot of internal work. It also kind of was like a spiritual kick to the head. It makes you look at everything and have to sort of create a whole new way of living. So I got back.
Sorry to interrupt. Can I ask you one thing on that? So did you do AA or what was the thing that allowed you to get into sobriety?
Yeah. So I was like at death's door. So I needed a whole hell of a lot of help, but intensive outpatient, intensive therapy. And yeah, AA is an amazing program. I absolutely love it.
So then let me ask you this. What did you learn from that experience? Because the reason I ask is because every high-level entrepreneur I know, now, listen, like the people that are listening to this, hopefully they don't take this the wrong way. Just because you didn't go through anything hard in your life doesn't mean that you're not going to be a good entrepreneur. I don't want to say that. Right. But there's some high-level entrepreneurs I know that they have some trauma in their past or some addiction. And they go through that period. But they learn a lot during that phase of their life that allows them to get people out of that valley. And maybe it's not being addicted, but we're all addicted to something, whether it's our phones, whether it's the addiction of being a victim in our life. So like, what are some things that you learned during that time in your life from AA or from that outpatient that allows you to help people in entrepreneurship?
You know, I didn't have a program for life, right? So whatever, our parents do as well as they can. And I'm done beating up my parents for maybe not giving me everything I needed. I take full responsibility for the decisions I made when I was 20-something, 30-something years old, and I decided to fix my problems with substances, right? That's on me. I didn't have a program for life. I really didn't have any character. I didn't know how to be a human being on this earth. I was, filling holes, and I was just not a great person. And I needed to develop a whole new way of living, and that's what AA gave to me. I also had to understand why I chose the path I did. The funny thing is, like when you're emotionally abused, it teaches you to be a perfectionist and get really good because you're trying to make your parent happy. If I'm just perfect, my parent will be happy. So those people tend to be really good performers, right? Successful entrepreneurs, straight A students, ladder climbers. That was me, right? But on the inside, I was a fucking mess. So I kept trying to get better and get better. So that ended up being a shadow, right? I had all this amazing ability to achieve, but inside I was dying, and I almost did die. Well, now I've got the best of both worlds. I've come through that cauldron of pain and required growth, and now it's like, okay, I can be spiritually sound. I know how to be a good human being. I know how to show up with character. Now I can go build something. Because my first 20 years, I was really good at what I did, but now I got this yin-yang superpower, the spiritual piece and the strategy and execution piece, And oh, by the way, now I'm humble and I want to help people. Look out, world. That'll make a good entrepreneur out of you.
Yeah, and I think that too is so important because again, like if you don't have purpose in your life, like I was talking to somebody on the podcast recently that he made this statement that I've been thinking of. I don't know why I can't get it out of my head, but he's made a statement that men are in crisis, and the only thing I keep coming back to is that in the past, we used to have mastery was the purpose.
Yeah.
Master something, right? Like back in the old days, it was like you're an apprentice for fucking 10 years and then you go, but that was your purpose. You were mastering something. And I think the first kind of step and through that skill development, you found self-mastery.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it sounds like to me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so tell me if this is fair or not, but I feel like you through that journey, that was your journey to find your own self-mastery, how to master your own thoughts, how to master your emotions, so that way you can fill a life of purpose. Is that fair?
It was definitely the start of it. Acknowledging that there's a spiritual side of me that's not my brain, it's not my mind, it's not my thoughts, it's not my limiting beliefs, it's not all the clutter. There's something else inside of me that's purely me, and it's my job to get all that noise out of the way. And I would say AA really started that. But my journey since then has really fine-tuned that. All the coaches I've invested in order to be a good entrepreneur. On the side, right, they're like, all right, here's your strategy, here's this. But by the way, do you know what the abundance mindset is? Do you know what the growth mindset is? Have you thought about getting some of your traumas out of the way? Should you go back into therapy? Is this entrepreneurship coaching? It is, right? Because your internal game is going to be mirrored in what your business is like. So it's been an 11-year journey to get where I am today, where I can talk about a lot about these things in a way where it makes some kind of sense. But without question, to get back to your first question, then I'll get back to this one. It was, I got back into the working world. I plugged right back in, man. Climb the ladder, make more money, get promoted, shoot for CEO. Brother, I was on the fast track, right? I started off at the bottom again, project manager, very humble. Then senior project manager. Then it was senior manager operations. Then VP operations. Oh man, it's getting good. Then COO. Hell yeah, C-suite job. And I tell the CEO, I would love to have your job. And he says, you'd be more than welcome to have it. A couple years, I think you'll be ready. And I'm laying in bed and I'm going, hang on, wait, time out. I don't think I want his problems. Every time I've gotten a better title, it's given me more money that really hasn't been that impactful. It's given me more stress. The problems get much more difficult. You have to make hiring and firing decisions. I had to let people go. It gets brutal. And oh, by the way, God love investors. I was making my board of directors rich, right? I was making the business owner rich. At the same time, I was driving an hour there and an hour back. And because I restarted my life so late, I had a 4-year-old, right? So I was 45 years old and I had my first kid. And I thought, what kind of model am I setting? I leave at 5 a.m. I get home at 5 o'clock at night and I'm wiped. Is that how I want to live my life? I'm 45 years old. I want to do this for 20 more years. And then I get to have fun. And then I get to be in charge of my time. It hit me, man. It hit me like a kick to the head. I thought, wait. I want out of this. This is not fair. This isn't right. This is not for me. And I got lucky, man. I was on LinkedIn and I saw the right post from the right coach and a whole new world was open to me because my parents weren't entrepreneurs. I didn't know what I was doing. I needed help.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that exposure, I always say that to get out of a certain area, sometimes you just need exposure.
Yes.
Like to know it's even possible. Like I was relatively fortunate, and granted, it didn't help me in that moment. But my wrestling coach was an entrepreneur. He is a business owner, and he was the first millionaire I ever met. And I remember he told me, I'm a millionaire. And I was like, I don't understand what the fuck that means. Like, did you hit the lottery? Like, because at the time, my family's living in a motel, and I'm like, I don't understand that world at all. And it didn't click. And I've told this story so many times, so I apologize to people that are listening to this that are tired of this. But one of the things that he said to me that completely changed my life, he said, most people get the degree that gets them the job, then their whole life is based around that job. how much money they make, what they do, how many vacations they take, where they live, all dependent on, or you could choose to decide what you want and go do the thing that's going to produce what you want. And that's what he did. And again, it didn't click obviously until years later, but that's the conversation that kind of popped up. So but again, to me, the importance of that exposure, and that's why I think content is so powerful at that point. So, okay, you decided you're going to be a solopreneur, you're going to be an entrepreneur. You hired this coach, I would imagine.
Yeah. Like you said, it was the exposure. She wrote an article on LinkedIn, and this was before LinkedIn was crazy like it is now.
Poppin'.
There's so many amazing voices on it. And she's like, listen, I was in tech and I said, screw it. And I started my own thing. And I thought, I want to talk to that person. Her name was Lauren Widrick. And I reached out and I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm at this fork in the road. I can go be CEO, or you're telling me I can start a business. And she asked me a magical question. She said, when you're working, when do you feel moments of most pure joy? And I knew the answer right away. And I said, one of my mentors has taught me how to coach. And coaching is different than managing somebody. You show up way different in your direct report's life when you coach them. I said, when I coach one of my people that reports to me, and the next week they come back with a big smile on their face because I empowered them to figure things out on their own and grow instead of just giving them answers. That feels amazing. And you know what? They stop asking me to do their work for them. They figure out how to do it on their own. I'm making these people better humans. I said, I love that. She said, how often do you get to do it? I said, about 5% of the time. She said, well, how about if you could do that 100% of the time? And I'm like, that's nonsense. No way people are going to pay me for that.
Yeah.
And then we went for it. And I landed my first client. And I was like, oh my God, I got another human being, got on a call just like this with me. I had a conversation about the challenges they were having. I said I could help. And they said, okay. And that was, holy cow, are you kidding me? You just paid me $2,250 to help you for 3 months? I think I got something. I know I got a long way to go. That first sale, off to the races.
Yeah, and there's something more exciting than your first sale. I feel I still remember the first time I was like, holy shit, people actually want this. Like
they're gonna pay me.
This is crazy. But the coaching, and this is why, again, I built a whole brand around coaching because of how much I loved it. Like I remember I was in high school, and again, it's a different wrestling coach, but the head wrestling coach was my math teacher. Okay. And I'm sitting in class, I'm trying to figure out this one way he taught me how to solve a problem, and I couldn't remember. So I go to him and I, hey coach, I don't remember how to do this. Like, can you help me? He goes, I don't know how to fucking do that. I'm a history teacher. And I was like, no, you're not. Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I don't know. Like, you're gonna have to figure that out. And so I went to my desk. Literally for the rest of class, I was figuring out this one problem, but I figured it out. And then I went to him. I was like, oh my God. He goes, there you go. Good job. And he, coached me up in a few different areas. But I was so ecstatic. That feeling that I figured out on my own, it kind of a light bulb went off. I was like, that aha moment. If somebody gives it to you, it doesn't feel as good. And not to mention too, you're not going to remember it as well. But I am, that was 25, 30, like I don't know, however long ago it was, years ago. And I still remember that moment and that feeling of, oh my God, I fucking figured it out. Right. Like it's, and one of the things that I loved that he would say was he would always say, I'm not giving you anything that you didn't already have.
There it is. That's the beauty of coaching. It's the trust that the other human has a better answer inside of them than the expert or the manager or the consultant has inside of them. That doesn't mean I don't give advice on occasion, but it's like 90% of the time I'm asking questions because the answer is inside you. And when I do give advice, half time blows up in my face, right? Because the answer is people know they just need someone. They need a sounding board, right? Yeah. Someone to hold space for them and hear them out and guide them in a way that no one else has guided them before. It's a cool thing about coaching. Like no one shows up in your life the way your coach does. Not your wife, not your buddy, not your therapist. They care about you in a way that's very unique and that they're totally detached. Like, I don't care if you get mad at me. I don't care if I piss you off. You're going to grow with me. And in 3 months, you're going to say thank you. I guarantee it. And it's going to be a cool as hell experience. Like coaching's magical.
Yeah. I think the other thing that I'm like really obsessed about, especially when I first started was that I hated the idea that some of these coaches out there, not the bash other coaches, I'm going to, but I don't really care. But there's other coaches out there that are like, hey, just follow my system, and I'm a
Oh,
coach,
dude.
and you're like, that's not coaching. Like that's why and
Yeah.
unfortunately, the good part about that is that it's allowed people like us to stand out more. And I say that because it's like, for me, for example, a perfect example is we have this client, not a client, a member of our academy that came to me originally because she wanted to be a coach. Well, and through asking questions, trial and error, putting things out, we had this call once and she goes, I don't think I'm a coach. I feel like I'm more of like a guide. And I want to put out this journal and I want to do whatever. She's never been happier. It's not the dream outcome that she thought she had, but it was because of the coaching that
Yes.
she found out that what she really wanted. And that's more important to me. Like, and granted, she's still a part of the academy, even though she's not a quote unquote coach. But what I'm trying to get her to see on her own time, it doesn't have to be on my time, but on her own time, that she actually still is coaching. But
Right.
but if you see yourself as a fucking guide or a teacher, I don't give a shit the language you use. It's like, are you helping people? Yeah. All right. Does it feel good? Yeah. Can we make money doing it? Of course. Fuck it then,
I got a story, I got a comment, and I got a story. So comment one is, yeah, I hate people who sell like guaranteed stone cold lock systems. What I do with my clients is I help them uncover their system. The people who write the books that you read, they came up with it on their own, right? Like, be the person who comes up with your own answers and your own system. Then, if you want to write about it or to sell it, feel free, but don't buy that stuff. Right? Work with a coach who says, "No, you've got it inside you. I'll help pull it out." But when it comes to letting people uncover where they want to go, my first client, that first sale we were talking about, I was so freaking excited. I was going to sell leadership coaching and training to people in tech. Oh man, I could do it in my sleep. I couldn't wait. This client was so excited. He said, I want to have boardroom presence. I want to be able to lead. I want to be able to influence. I'm like, I got you. I got you. I got you. He signed the contract. Awesome. First session, I get on the call and I was like, tell me why all this stuff is important to you. And he looked at me and he paused and he said, isn't it supposed to be? And I thought, oh no, this guy still doesn't know what he wants to be when he grows up.
Yeah.
I actually took my first product, crumpled it up, threw it in the corner and said, okay, let's dig in. Let's get to know you. You get to know me. Let's figure out why you're on this planet, what you really want to do. It was amazing, right? And I never sold that product again. And I never trust a client since then who says they know exactly what they want. I listen to them, I put it on the back, and then we dig in. What are your values? What lights you up? What do you want to be on your tombstone, right? What kind of life do you want to model for your kids? What's going to get you out of bed even when you're not making money? What are you going to fight so hard for that you're going to refuse to give up? You're going to walk through walls for the people you serve or the lifestyle you get to create. What's that thing? Let's go do that. You get one life. It's amazing, right? It's amazing the number of people who come to me, they think they know what they want. They don't. When they uncover it, look the hell out because they're on a mission. They're ready to rock and roll.
That's kind of the hard part too, is figuring out what you want. And that's why, like, when I looked at your website, I loved that you had a part of there. One of the first things was purpose.
Yes.
Because it's like, if you don't have that, like, you can, and this is something that I always say, is that we can monetize anything. I know somebody, not personally, I know of a story of someone who did a challenge for her knitting course and made multiple six figures. You can
Yes.
make money fucking doing anything.
Yes.
So we might as well do something you actually enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And so, for you, so then now, so you started off with like the leadership side of it, and
Yeah.
now we're in this place where we're helping people like create their own entrepreneur journey and become
Yeah.
a solopreneur. So like, what exactly kind of people do you work with? Like, how did you stumble upon doing that instead of like really niching down and going, I'm going to work with somebody on leadership or sales
Right.
or
Right.
whatever?
So after my first sale of the leadership package, the way I positioned myself next time or after that was career coaching. Are you in a bad fit job? Let's get you with a better employer. Let's get you the skills you need so on and so forth. And it went well because I picked a really specific job title and a very specific industry because I knew their pains. It was product managers in tech, and it sold like hotcakes. And that was my side hustle period, right? So I did that until I proved I could make $10,000 a month coaching. Didn't matter who the market was or what the product was. Once I did that and I had saved the money up, I pulled my wife aside and said, I'm quitting. And as soon as I quit my corporate job, my coach did what they were paid to do and said, "You can't be a career coach anymore." And I was like, "Why is that?" Because you don't feel it anymore. If you believe deep down that the true path to freedom is to be an entrepreneur where you don't report to anybody and you own your time, you need to go do that. You figured something out that a lot of people don't figure out. From nothing, you figured out how to build a business. You build a product and it failed, then you build a second product and it took off. It's time for product 3. You need to go teach people how to build a business and get out of corporate too, because that's what you care about. Mm-hmm. And so I freaked out because I've now got to kill the golden goose. You mean that revenue stream I've been counting on? I'm supposed to stop selling that and start selling this new product and pivot entirely? Yes, that's what you're supposed to do. So my sales went like this. My blood pressure went like this. And then I closed my first deal on a guy who wanted to start his business. And now he's out of corporate. And then someone else left corporate. And I got a bunch of other people that are side hustling. And it's really exciting. But what's exciting is the growth, man. Because you want to get tested in life. You want to see what you're made of. Get married, have a child, or start a business. Those are the 3 biggest tests. And I think entrepreneurship, it'll make a man or a woman out of you. Like there's no question. And I love watching the people my clients become. Because as they do this work and they've got to get good on the inside for the stuff on the outside to work, sneaky stuff happens. Hey, I'm a better dad. I'm a better husband. I get along better with my wife. I'm a better neighbor. Why? Because you cannot have a successful business, a successful solopreneur business especially, if you don't have your inner game right. So that's a big part of what I teach people. And seeing that kind of impact, regardless of whether they're building a business or not, is really exciting. I like that part of the business so much. I've created product number 4, which is just the inner work. So I've taken everything I've done for my career folks, for the people who want to start a business, and I popped that off. It's called the Quantum Life Formula. It's my new product, and it's all the spiritual work, whether you want to start a new business or not. And it's amazing. Like I'm working with, there's a cancer surgeon in that group, like impactful stuff affecting how she shows up in the operating room, right? Yeah. There's other solopreneurs in there who are like, I want to elevate the client I attract. And we're not doing any strategy work. I'm not teaching them how to be a better surgeon. I'm teaching them how to get the noise in here under control, how to get this whole thing working in line. It's just really exciting. I like transforming lives no matter what kind of goal they have. But the solopreneur thing is my main jam right now. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and sometimes it's interesting because that's usually what happens. People come to you because they want money, they want the freedom, whatever. And then once they're there, they realize, oh, I am the resistance.
Yes.
And that's where that inner work comes in, right?
That's
and I'm assuming based on the title of the new program, is that like loosely based on like, Dr. Joe Dispenza's work and
now you're talking stuff? Yeah, like I'm into Eckhart Tolle and some Dispenza. Esther Hicks on YouTube is amazing.
Michael Singer?
Michael Singer. Oh, hell yes, Surrender Experiment. In fact, my cohort read that book and it's changing lives. Yeah, it's law of attraction, but with like action and hard work, right? It's law of attraction minus your attachments, minus the anchors that are holding you down, raising your vibration, right? And taking aligned action. It's the woo-woo, it's the yin and the yang, right? It's the strategy piece, the action piece, and the spiritual piece. But yeah, those are the kinds of people who influence me.
Because I jokingly say that like Elevated, the premise of Elevated came from transformation. So like we have the 5 laws of Elevated, and like for example, like number 1 is like be impeccable with your word. You are the source. Like these type of concepts, right? But there was a moment where, because I used to do like just typical sales coaching before I created Elevated, and it came from me doing inner transformation work. And I realized I was making a grave mistake, and I was teaching tactics, But then if you just had the tactics but not the inner work, you weren't getting results. And so what I found was when people were with me, they were getting tons of sales, but then they would leave and they would hit me up and go, Raylen, I'm back to where I started. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Oh, yeah. I never addressed the true issue, right? Whereas like, if you are the resistance, if you are the problem, then guess what? You're not going to have, like, they basically essentially what happened was, because in my opinion, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but a coach should be someone that you want to emulate. Like, they should inspire you in terms of like their action. Like, I want to live like that coach. And one of the things that I kind of realized was I was kind of creating an ecosystem where they could leave their past behind, because I would never, the rule of elevated, whether it doesn't matter if you're in the academy or if you're an agency client. Some of my agent clients are like 7-figure earners, and I'm the one telling them no stories, circumstances, or excuses. That's the rule.
Yeah.
And which is kind of funny because some of these people are like one of my clients like 70, and I'm like, that's an excuse. Like, try again. Anyway, so with that being said, I absolutely love that stuff, and I want to dig into that more. Okay. For those that have listened to this podcast, like, they know that I'm obsessed with like the quantum, and but I want to come back to this. So there's this age-old question of, should you intelligently leave your 9 to 5 by creating a side hustle first? I just had a stroke, or taking the leap, right? Yeah. What do you do? And here, and this is why I love people like you, because you teach the opposite of what I did. Because granted, I don't know if I took the leap as much as I like got pushed, because I had 2 companies that I was like, you know, in sales and doing whatever as an executive or whatever the hell my title was. And then they either A, closed, or B, they sold, and they closed a bunch of locations, and you know how that works, right? Your company buys, they're not keeping the people that were in charge. They're just not.
Right.
So after the second time this happens, similar to your kind of experience of freedom, I was like, I am tired of having, and again, a good example was like at one point, I think my teams had brought in like a 10-week span, it was like close to like $50 million, some crazy shit. And I was like, did my paycheck change? Like,
who got anything when that happened? Yeah.
And I was like, oh, what the fuck? Like something is not right here. And so anyway, I remember looking at my son, because you mentioned obviously having a kid changes things. My son at the time was like 6 months old, maybe, or no, like a year. And I remember thinking, if I don't do this now, because I fell in love with coaching, and I got introduced to it from, it's actually a consultant that came to our corporation and did training, and it was all about coaching. And I got really close to him, and he became a mentor of mine. And I was like, he literally pulled me aside and was like, you could do what I'm doing. And I was like, oh shit, maybe I can't, because I was really, really obsessed with it. And so anyway, I had this thought, and I go, well, if I don't, I was like, I don't know, because I had a friend of mine reach out to me, goes, hey, I'm going to offer you this job.
Yeah.
And it was more money than I was making before, multiple, you know, it was a lot of money. And I go, all right, here's my choices. I jump into this shit now, or I take this job.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at my son and having this dialogue with my son, which obviously wasn't real, but like was this dialogue of, if he tries to do something risky at some point in his life, and I tell him you should go for it, he's going to look back at me and say, well, Dad, you never did that.
Right.
And I was like, fuck it, I got to go for it. So I remember calling my friend who was offering me the job, and I go, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm turning it down because I'm going to start a new thing. And he goes, and it was the best thing I could have heard in the moment. He goes, Raylen, even if your company's making $60,000, that is worth more than what we're going to pay you. Because what happened to him was, he was a consultant making good money, and then they offered the VP of sales job, and he was like, now I'm, you know, here comes the excuse, but I'm too old. Like, my whole life is built around this money now. And he goes, I wish I could start over and not take this job. So go for it.
Wow.
And you know, everything happened. So anyway, I kind of took the leap. But I also say, though, don't fucking do what I did, because the first 6 months, by the way, when I made this decision, I didn't have a product yet. I didn't have an offer. All I knew was I knew a lot about sales, and I knew I could help people.
Yeah.
And so I had that journey. But it sucked for the first 6 months to a year. When I say sucks, I mean like I just did my in the academy, somebody was having a hard time and was like, you know, basically needed some inspiration because like they were having some low months, and I sent them a screenshot of 2 things. One, of during that time, my bank account, which by the way, I didn't even know Wells Fargo let you do this, but I was negative $1,600 in one bank account. I had like my credit cards were maxed out.
Yep.
And then fast forward to in this 6-month period, when we created the agency, we did multiple six figures in 6 months. And so I showed him this not to like, it's just, look, sometimes you gotta fucking go through the suck.
Oh, yeah, no question.
Like I had to go through that
Yeah.
to create this. And by the way, and this goes into the quantum stuff a little bit, but like the reason why I think it sucked is because I was grinding, meaning I was creating friction.
Hell yeah.
And then eventually I got to the point where I started detaching from the outcome. I started creating shit that I wanted to create. I started coming to people the way that I wanted to come to. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh shit, making money is easy.
That's how this works.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
So,
Light bulbs,
yeah.
man. Detach
So for
from
you-
the outcome. Quit pushing,
Yeah.
quit grinding.
So for you, I mean, like, I know I've saw it again on your website that like your steps is creating that side hustle, but like, is there ever an opportunity where you go, yo, fucking leave, jump right now? Or do you always say, I think we need to take this slow. Let's build it right.
Most people need to take it slow. Only because they're like I was. Like, you got a mortgage, you got car payments. I mean, I'm sole breadwinner, so my financial responsibilities were very, very real. And I was, I had a good paying senior executive job. I preferred to build up while I tailed off, and it worked well for me. And I think that's what most people should do. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to hit a point of great tension. It'll still happen where you have to decide to jump. In fact, I had a checklist. If all these things were true, then I will resign. And when all the things in that checklist were checked, I called my coach and said, I don't think I can do it. And she was amazing. She sat across from me with her laser effing eyes and said, maybe you're not cut out for it. And then she stopped talking and let the silence do the heavy lifting. And I sat in this chair and I wanted to throw up and I wanted to cry and 2 minutes later I said, fuck it, I'm in.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so that tension of should I jump or not doesn't go away. But I knew, logically at least, I had financial runway. I had a product that was proven. I knew how to sell. I had things in place you didn't, which made it a little less risky for my family. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that a different set of solutions might not work for other people. It all depends. I agree that you need to experience the suck. That even if you build your side hustle and exit, that does not absolve you from challenges, from your business not growing, from all kinds of crazy stuff not happening. I was out for a year and I was going into my second year of being out of corporate. And I thought, hell yeah, year 2, look out because I got this shit down. And then in Q1 of my second year, my business tanked and I did not know what was wrong. But you know what I did, right? I didn't work on my strategy. I didn't change my product. I didn't change my offer. I called my therapist. Called my therapist and I called my coach and I said, I know I'm the problem. My business is tanking in the beginning of its second year and it shouldn't be. I got to work through some things. I went to therapy. I re-engaged with my coach. My business took off again in 3 months. And I didn't change anything about my business, right? I had to get me right, right? And now as I go into year 3, it'll be starting year 3 in February. I know I'm good spiritually. I know how to detach from the outcomes, right? I know how to not grind. I know how to just show up. I don't think that's going to happen again, but it doesn't mean it might not happen again. But no question, the suck is part of it. In fact, one of my mentors, when I told him I quit my job, he said, welcome to the terror. Mm-hmm. Who says that to somebody? Welcome to the terror? Let me tell you, some nights, vomit comet. It's not easy, but it is so worth it. I love my life today. I would not change it for the world. Your friend who said that $60,000 you make is worth $600,000 in corporate was right, because you will learn more about yourself. You will grow more when you have to put meat on the table yourself than you will doing anything else. No question.
And it's such an important lesson, because if you do stop growing, like, your business will cease to grow. It's just, I've not seen any evidence to support the contrary. Like, even like for us, we had initial thought of what the agency, we had a concept marketing agency we launched. And it was really because, my favorite way to build offers, like how you're thinking through your products, I did it a little bit different in that I go, all right, if we looked at all the problems they face as they elevate, as they grow, what's a new problem that they're going to experience? And that's time, right? Like they don't have enough time. So now enter the service-based thing, which we did,
Sure.
the agency, but we did it around content marketing and mostly around like social media. And then something happened where basically we went from 0 to 12 clients overnight. And then all of a sudden it was like a 6 months of nothing.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, but what's going on? Because I wasn't into the offer anymore. Like
Uh-huh.
I didn't
Isn't that
like it.
crazy?
Yeah, I created it, and this is where again, as much as we know this as coaches, it's really easy to forget. I started. Here's what happened, Keith. I started making it about money
Oh, dude, yes.
because I was making money.
Ironically, huge mistake. When you focus on the money, things fall apart.
Yeah. So then we go, all right, like what do I want to do? And then that's where the new iteration of the agency came, which is the podcasting agency. Because to us, like the strategy, and I'll kind of spill the beans here for the first time on the podcast, but essentially the best way to do two things: one, build brand awareness, but long term for YouTube, but also podcasting in general. Those two things are not going to change. The algorithms don't change every month like everywhere else does. So if long form content is the mission, because again, my whole theory about long form is that the best way to make a sale or get a client bought in is the how much time you spend with them. Time
Agreed.
equals trust. Trust equals sales. Right. So we go, all right, if we really want clients to have like ridiculous results, we're going to build them a podcast, but we'll do it a little bit differently in that. We're also going to reach out for people and get them guests because it's like around 10, I would say 10 to 20% of people that join the podcast, you can either A, will become a client, or B, will partner with you in some way, right? And that's where the idea of like being open to any opportunity comes in.
Yes.
And once we did that, again, everything took off again.
Yeah.
Because again, it was like, I'm fucking into it. Like, and I know it works. And, and again, we stopped making it about money and making it about how can we find the undiscovered thought leader?
I invested in two really solid programs over the summer, chasing the money. I thought the answer to my growth was on Facebook. Hey, I'm killing it on LinkedIn, but I'm kind of tapped out. I'm going to go on Facebook. Dude, I hated it. I paid a lot of money to learn. I do not want to. If you're on Facebook, that's cool. Whatever. Build your business there.
Yeah.
It was not my jam, right? But I was chasing the revenue. I wasn't excited about the platform. And it was worth every dollar I spent because now I know how to make decisions and I've got a clear line of sight on what I want to do in 2023. And my inner tuning fork is just humming. Like when you shifted to the podcasting and you're like, all right, we're back. And then the business results are a trailing indicator of your alignment with your higher calling. Like once you got that alignment right, the money comes later. It doesn't come first. If you chase the money, it just doesn't work. It doesn't
So
work.
then, for speaking of 2023, like, so what are some of the platforms you're excited about? I know you're killing it on LinkedIn, and I do want to come back to that because I know a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think they sleep on LinkedIn.
Oh man, I love LinkedIn.
And it doesn't matter. Like, 'cause again, when I first started, I started as an Instagram, not an Instagram coach, but I started
Yeah.
prioritizing Instagram, I should say, and I made good money there. And then when I tell people how much money we've made only from LinkedIn, they're like, what the fuck? And I'm like, dude, you have like, you're sleeping on LinkedIn. So obviously you love LinkedIn, but like, I'm assuming you're wanting to like grow into other platforms. So is there another platform you're looking at? You're like, oh, that's going to be my new jam.
It's funny, I have created an exceedingly lean business to the point where it was a little risky. My only revenue stream has been LinkedIn for 2+ years now. So that meant, inbound, writing really effective content, starting conversations, creating, connections, talking to people, doing a little bit of the DMs, but not a ton, but like doing some of that. And leads just come in. I don't have a website. I got a couple landing pages, but I still don't have a website. I still don't really have a newsletter. I don't have some of what I think I'm now excited about that I'm ready for the fundamentals. So I've engaged my first marketing company. I got, a partner there that I'm really excited about. We're going to build a really effective website and we're going to invest in SEO. I think that's a really solid play for me. The other place is I want to get into email again and get that going again because I want to own my contact list. I want to own my database. I want to have long form. I want to be able to do what I want. And as opposed to when I decided I wanted to go to Facebook, these feel aligned. I'm excited about building my website. Finally. Now, a lot of people would have built it right away. I knew I didn't need it.
Yeah.
I didn't waste my time building a website.
For the
I
first
went
two
out and
years,
learned,
I didn't even have one.
no,
Yeah.
I went out and learned how to sell, right?
Yeah.
And learned how to deliver. And so now it's website and SEO. I might do some Google ad buys, um, and an email newsletter. And I might be doing a little YouTube. I might be talking to you at some point about a podcast, but it's because I'm excited about those things,
Yeah.
not because I'm chasing my next revenue stream. And that's what's important.
Well, listen, like, one of the things, email is like, when I just had the last, I'll send it to you after this too, but we had, the last episode we just did was with Rock. He's one of our members, but he did, our podcast on emails and automation.
Yeah.
And so some of the key things that, like, again, I didn't do emails for a long time. I just was like, I'm going to talk to you and I'll know pretty soon whether or not I can help you. And so will you. And then we're good. And then I actually had one of my first hires. She goes, yeah, but wouldn't it be cool if, like, you don't even have to talk to these people and they'll just buy into something? And I was like, actually, yeah, that would be kind of cool. So once you build it, and then it's also nice too, because it's like, if you don't buy now, here was my problem that I realized I was creating, and why I'm excited for you to get an email is that some people are not ready to buy now, but they will be in like a year.
Yep.
And you don't have to, all you have to do is send that newsletter. And eventually when they're ready, like I had somebody that literally just signed up for our academy, and I've known of her 3 years. And then just randomly, I know that she opens all the emails. I knew she got all the freebies, she did all the things. And I was like waiting. And then all of a sudden she just goes, all right, I'm ready. But I didn't have to do anything. There was already stuff that I was putting out. And then the other thing that I would say is that, like, here's my, can I pitch you on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the pitch for YouTube, and why, when we did the podcast agency, I said, fuck all these other agencies. No offense. I mean, I'm not competitive. Yes, that's a lie. I am very competitive. But there's other podcast agency out there, but they don't prioritize YouTube. And I don't understand why, because for a consultant or a coach,
Yeah.
I have the perfect example is I have this coach that we're working with that he's a speaking coach, and he goes, Raylen, still to this day, because he doesn't do YouTube anymore. I'm like, why did you stop? He goes, honestly, I don't know, because I still to this day get 7 to 10 leads a week from one YouTube video I posted 10 years ago.
Oh my.
So, like, if you post something on LinkedIn, the lifespan of that is maybe a week, like at the longest. Right?
Yeah.
That's a viral one.
It might be like 8 hours. It disappears.
I was going to say Instagram is maybe 2 hours.
Yeah.
YouTube, the quote of YouTube is content can continue to build for 7 to 9 years.
Okay. That's cool.
So if you build now here's why people don't do it. And I just actually made a YouTube video about this. It's because it does take a minute for it to catch. Okay. Like, you could be doing, YouTube for a year before anything pops. Okay. But here's why you start now, then you get the results later. But that's not why I do it. Yeah, it's the long play. But also, here's why I get excited about when you combine it with podcasting. So imagine if for you, for example, like let's say one of your missions is to speak, or again, it could be around, it could be around still like the coaching you do, but you bring on the guests. Okay, so the guest is like the opportunity number one. But even if they don't say they're interested in what you do, no big deal, because the listeners are going to come to, like, for example, I am betting on the fact that there's going to be, let's say 50% or 60% of the people that listen to this episode are early stage entrepreneurs, and they want to learn from you, and they're going to click on your link, whatever. The rest of the 40% though is going to click on my stuff and then come to me. But then you put it all over on YouTube, and now those clips you chop up, and now you can exist on, and it's going to create conversations on LinkedIn. But I am also important to me is time. So for all of my content, I post like every single day, and like 30 pieces of content every single day on multiple channels. And guess how much I film? I just do this.
Right.
And I'm done. And I'm everywhere. Right.
Love it.
And so for me, YouTube, and again, YouTube doesn't change. The game of YouTube, the algorithm, it doesn't change. Minor tweaks, same thing with podcasting. How much has podcasting changed in fucking 10 years? Right? Or YouTube for that matter. Yeah. And like TikTok, again, that might get taken away. Instagram competes with every other platform, so they change their shit every other day. There was a time where I was getting like 10,000 views. Now I'm getting 200 on YouTube, and podcasting. It never changes. As long as your SEO is good, as long as the keywords are there and you show up consistently, it will build. So anyway, that's my pitch to you on long
No,
form,
I
man,
love it.
on
It's like a
YouTube.
maturation because early on I was doing the same thing. I mean, I had to hit a home run. You came at me inbound on LinkedIn, said, I like what you're saying and want to talk. I'd get you on an hour-long sales call and I could close about 30 or 40% on a very high ticket product. But if I swung and missed 10 times in a row, those people disappeared, right?
Exactly.
And now I want to build out like you're talking, something that's a little more mature, something that lets people hang out in my space longer, whether it be on email or what have you, so that they can make the decision in 6 months or 8 months,
And
right?
you
I don't
would,
have to
dude,
keep
you
hitting those
would
home runs.
crush. You would crush because one, it's also listen. It's not saying you can't learn it, but it's a personality thing, right? And people can sense if you're full of shit or not. That's
Yeah,
what I love about it because it's really if you listen to my podcast or if you watch my YouTube for a long time, you'll know whether or not A, you can work with me, and B, if I'm full of
right.
shit or not, right?
Yeah.
But the
Yep.
other component to it that I really like and how I used it, and again, this is just advice you didn't ask for, but one of the things I think would be really cool is what we kind of say is you out free the competition.
Mm,
So I don't leave anything that I ever coach on under the paywall. I give away
yeah.
because here's the idea. One, you don't hire a coach for their information,
Right.
right? You hire them for what they can pull out of you, and so it doesn't matter what I say on these things. Like but my whole intention was, what if I can help someone be able to afford me
Mm,
for free? Because here's the thing: if you can get them a result to be able to afford you, where do you think that money's going to go? It's not going to go to another coach. It's going to go
right.
to you, right? Because when I think about it, like I'll give you a prime example, which is Joe Polish. He has this Genius Network is his mastermind, $25,000 to $100,000 for a mastermind, and I've been following him since I started.
Yeah.
Right, like I've read every single book, like, and I'm fortunate enough to say that like we talk, which is kind of cool. He's coming to my wedding. It's a big deal.
Nice.
Hopefully it doesn't. That's embarrassing if you heard that, but I am really excited about it. Also, this is coming out after the wedding, so like it's fine. Um, it's fine, whatever. But here's the cool part about that is that because of all the information he gave to me for free through his podcast, through his YouTube, through his books, guess what's going to happen when I'm ready to invest 25 grand to do a mastermind?
Yeah.
And
There's
you
no
think I'm going to go
question.
to
You're gonna call,
another?
right?
Yeah, I'm going to him,
You're
and
not
he
going to
knows
shop
it.
around. Yeah.
No. So anyway, that's my pitch on YouTube.
No, I love it. If implementation or integration were as easy as taking in the information, then all the people who read all these books behind me wouldn't coaching industry wouldn't exist because
Yeah.
all the information is out there. Everything I teach, you could go teach yourself, but I've been working on it for 5 years and I'm going to distill it and customize it. And then I'm going to make sure you take the actions required so you actually get the results. Because most people, they think it's like the Matrix. You can just install it. I know Kung Fu. It's not how it works. You can't just read a book. You got to take action. And coaches, they help with the action.
So then for you, what was your like elevation of the revenue look like? Like when you first started, your first program was what, and then you don't
Oh,
have to
yeah.
say what your thing is now, but like how did you think through how to
Yeah.
raise your price? Because my it's funny, I get asked a lot like how much do I charge for this, and my answer always, Keith, is it's the amount of money that you could say without cracking a smile.
Yeah. It
That's
was no, especially when you get started. Please, for the love of God, don't decide what your hourly rate is and don't give me your
no.
gross profit margin and don't give me a spreadsheet. My coach said to me, what number can you say out loud and feel really freaking good about it? And it's $750 a month flew out of my mouth. She's like, now stop thinking about it. And she said, for how long? I said, 3 months. She said, okay, you're $750 a month for 3 months. And I said, and I went and sold that 7 or 8 times. And she said, double it. And I said, I don't want to. She said, what do you want to do instead? I said, 1,200. She said, now go do that. Right.
Mhm.
And I got into this rhythm of stepping into the version of me that could become a premium price coach.
Yeah.
And now my packages are $8,000 to $20,000. Right. I didn't get there overnight. I had to become the person who could say 6 months of
Yeah.
private with me is 18 grand and say it knowing that if you say no to that, it has no reflection on me. I'm worth that. In fact, I'm probably worth more. It's not a cocky thing, right? It's becoming the person who can deliver that kind of value
Yep.
and knows that they have that value. Now, do I then need to make sure that the margins are right, and that I'm not spending too much time making that money. Yeah, but not at first. You don't. You got to be confident in your number.
Yeah, I think too. Like, it's also you probably elevated the type of client as you elevated the revenue, right? Or the
Yeah,
ask, I should say.
you have to elevate the outcome you're delivering or the severity of the pain you're solving, right? When people are sick and tired of corporate like I was, that is an existential moment when you say, I don't want the rest of my life to be like this, but I don't know how to get off this crazy train.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see Keith. He didn't know how to get off it either. He had the same moment of, what has my life come to? Is this what I want to do? He can help me. And it's worth a lot because that's a big ass problem. But if
Yeah.
all you need is help doing interview prep or resume writing or finding a new job, those are valuable things. They don't carry the same impact, right?
What do you
It's not.
think weighs more? Do you think it's the solving the problem, or is it the inspiration of what the future may hold? Meaning, like,
Yeah.
do you think they're paying you to solve the problem of don't feel good being in this position, or are they
Yeah.
paying you for the potential revenue in which they could have one day?
It's both. And in my sales process, I mean, this is every sales process ever, but I've made it my own, right? It's an agitation type of
By the
approach.
way, that's why I stopped doing sales coaching, because sales has not fucking changed. It was boring as shit to me. I hated teaching sales. Like, it was like,
It's the
dude,
same
it's
thing,
like,
right?
oh my god. Anyway, go
I've
ahead.
had four sales coaches, and they've all basically taught me the same thing. But like,
Yeah.
what's the problem? How's it showing up? Agitate on that thing. What happens if it never changes? How bad is it? How is it impacting you personally? Is now the time to fix it? Like, is it that bad? Because if it's not, we're done. Yeah, it's a now thing. Cool. Now let's paint the picture of what Shangri-La looks like. And now we got a really vivid picture of not just getting neutrally buoyant, not just taking your crap life and making it not crappy, making it amazing, right? So we go from the valley, not to the plains, but to the mountains. So let's paint a really strong picture of that. And if I can help get you from here to here, is that worth $10,000? Yeah, no question. Let's do that. So it's both. They've got to feel the pain strongly enough and have a very clear vision for how good it could get. You need both.
Yeah, because I always consider that. Because I don't know. Like, what's interesting is, going back to the podcasting thing. The reason why we started doing that for clients is because it's not a sales thing. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could argue that it is, but what I have found in doing this, and again, I'm giving away the strategy because I don't, you could do it on your own. Like, anybody could really do it. But like, what I have found is the clients have come through the podcast. Like, I had this client reach out to me after the show. I didn't pitch. I didn't say anything. And they go, "Hey, I think you can help me." And I go, "Okay, cool." And then on the call, I was like, because I just got tired of doing that. I'm not saying like it's wrong to do the pain points. I think it's really important.
Right.
But my whole thing became, all right, I'm just going to tell you what the strategy is. I'm
Yeah.
going to show you what it can do. Do you want
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
And because what would happen to me was when I went through the sequence, and I got really, really ingrained into like, and then it was like, fuck, what went wrong in the sequence? Now I just got, again, my version of detaching the outcome was like, I'm just
Yeah.
going to show you what we could do.
Yeah.
If you want it, fucking take it. If you don't,
Dude,
no big deal.
seriously. So it's funny. The story I just told you is very much last year me. I love that you took it this direction because my new attitude is hop on a call with me and let's see. And honestly, I just don't give a crap whether you want it or not. Let's figure out if it's a fit and just give me the yes or no. Like I don't actually run through that sales process at all anymore. I have a really powerful conversation. A lot of times the person already knows I'm right for them. They've seen my stuff. They've got enough experience viewing it. And I just want people who are like slam dunk hell yeses. Like I don't necessarily want to have to do that sales process anymore. I'm definitely getting away from it. So I feel the space you've gotten to. And I can
Yeah.
respect that. Makes sense.
It's just, I didn't like, and also too, I realized that, and this is going to sound super arrogant, so I apologize in advance, but like, I was good at sales.
Yeah.
But here was the downside to that, because not only was I the salesperson, but I also am the fulfillment person.
Yeah.
So then we would have clients that I didn't want to work with because I know I can close, right?
Yes.
But that also meant we had some clients that we had to fire because I could close. So how did you find that balance? Like,
Yeah.
of getting the right client. Because I hear this a lot from people that are like, man, I fucking hate this client. I'm like, my answer is always fire them. Like, I don't know, like give them their shit and tell them to walk. Why are you accepting bad clients? And again, this comes back to money more than the who, right?
If you sense that you're chasing the money, like if your greed wants the client, but like your heart and soul is like, oh God, you got to listen to your intuition. Like I tap into my intuition in a big way, and it's never steered me wrong. And it's a quiet voice. It's a gentle nudge. It's a lot of times the one you don't want to listen to because the other voices are louder, especially that voice that says chase the money and land the deal. And that at 8 grand or 10 grand or 12 grand is a couple more months worth of mortgages. But then that little voice is saying, you're going to suffer. Here's the empowering answer to that. By saying no to the bad fit client, you leave space for the good fit client. So you're actually hurting yourself in two ways. You take on a client that's going to drive you bananas, and now you don't have a spot in your world. Not literally like a slot in your coaching thing, but I mean space in your world.
Energy.
That energy for that cool client to enter. So every time you say no, you win twice. Every time you say yes to a bad client, you lose twice. I've hired a couple that I regretted, but you can tell what I'm like on this call, right? Like if your energy matches my energy and you're excited the way I'm excited, we click in a really high level way. So I actually haven't had a lot of clients that I regret, but I think it's because how I show up on the sales calls. And honestly, if I don't think you're a bad fit, I will steer you away just very gently on the call. I don't think we're right for each other, and I'll point him to another coach or to a book.
Yeah, I think it's really important again to go over again because it's like really, especially in the beginning, it's really easy to go like, oh, I just gotta get clients in. But here's the flip side of that. I think you need them sometimes because we've had some like in my history of coaching, especially in the beginning, I had some bad coaches, or bad clients rather.
Yeah.
But they taught me so much. Like,
sure.
Oh, I don't want to offer. Like, there's like even things of like I don't even want to offer this anymore, or like why am I doing this, or
Yeah, it's contrast. Right. So if you study Esther Hicks, which is one of our like spiritual people, that contrast is something to be welcomed, not looked at as a negative. Right. So I had a bad client, or I had a sales call that didn't go well, or I had a product I didn't actually like delivering. Giving yourself permission to say that's okay because it's teaching me what I actually do want. If you don't experience that contrast, it's awfully hard to really tune in on what you want. So I agree. You got to have some stinkers: product, offer, clients, vendors. My Facebook investment, like now I know it's allowing yourself to make mistakes so that you can get really freaking good at what you do.
Dude, it's like the bane of my existence, and all of my team make fun of me about it. But my first program ever was called Combat Ready because I used to fight MMA. Okay. And what the fuck is Combat Ready? Number one. All right. Like, why did anybody let me fucking launch that? I don't know. But it was a sales program, and the only reason why it did well was because I could sell, right? So I was DMing and doing whatever. But like, if you heard my program Combat Ready, you don't know like, oh, it's a sales coaching program. Like, no, it was this whole, I went through this whole rigmarole. It was like, well, entrepreneurship is like combat. It's so embarrassing. So yeah, sometimes you got to do a sticker of bad offer sometimes. So one of the things that I did want to mention was I wanted to go through your process a little bit because again, someone may be listening to this that's like, I've been thinking about doing this for a long time. What's the roadmap? Like, how do I go from fucking this to where you guys are at? Like, what does that roadmap look like?
Yeah, when you sign on for me, it's a 6-month container because, most of my clients, they're 35, 45 years old. They got full lives. It's the first time they're really incubating a business idea, and it takes some time. In addition to that, we've got to start, like I've been saying this whole time, with the inner work. We are not going to start your business idea on week 1. We're going to figure out what are your limiting beliefs, what are the crazy thoughts going through your head, what are the mental things that are going to get in the way of you showing up. I've had clients tell me that it was worth the investment just to do the mental work, just to do the inner work the first 4 to 6 weeks. We start there, then we shift to the values uncovering, the purpose uncovering, and start to align those things with what might be a business idea that you can take to market.
So the kind of inner work I'm gonna imagine is like clearing your past self, so that way obviously you can kind of design and create your future self, which then gives you more clarity around your purpose. Because if you didn't do the inner work, I would imagine when you create your purpose, it's clouded based on your past bullshit. Is that fair?
No, 100%. Yep. It's it's this like cleansing, right? Getting all that stuff out of the way, because what you came to the program thinking were your values or your purpose probably weren't. You're going to end up wanting something that's more purely aligned with your inner self, and that's where we want to get, because this is the lift is hard. Building a business is hard, so it needs to be something you're really excited about. So then we shift to ideation, developing personas, and really looking at product market fit, starting to fine tune what our offer will be and who we're going to serve. Then we do market validation, and that is the most important part of the process, where before you're selling, before you're marketing it, go out and generate conversations, talk to your ideal client profile. And that's where things usually change radically, because the assumptions we made, the hypotheses we came up with, once they hit, the combat zone, they get shot to shreds, and we revise and change it up, go back and market validate some more. Usually what happens is one of those first market validation conversations, and one of those conversations ends up being client number one, which is really cool. It means you don't have to necessarily go into full sales cycle. You're talking to people who might be a good fit, but you're not pitching them. You're using them and you're researching with them. And they say, "Can I buy this?" And you say, "Sure." Then we make sure you're ready for delivery, right? Deliver that close the first sale, get ready to deliver it and absolutely thrill that customer, and then build out a system for generating customers 2 through 10. Because once you have that first sale, like I did, you've got something you can work off of. And now we just need to do that more consistently. So then it becomes developing marketing pieces and content pieces and figuring out how to find a bigger pool of clients for you to serve. By the end of 6 months, you should have your first, not a little chintzy sale, but a 4-figure sale, a $1,000 program, a $5,000 program. One of my clients' first sales was $30,000. One of them was $12,000.
Goddamn. All right.
We go big game hunting, because I want you to learn how to sell premium products.
Yeah, no, I love that, man. That's really good. And I think I love that you mentioned the market analysis, like going through, because that is the best way to generate money. Because I also like was super aggressive with my market research, because I basically would like, if you and I were on that, I'd be like, all right, would you buy it now? And they'd be like, no. And I would say, all right, what if I added this? Would you buy it then? And then they're like, no. And then, but if they said yes, I'm like, all right, cool. Like, do you want to buy it right now?
Right.
And then they'd be like, sure. Wow. All right, cool. Let's go. But like for me, it was like that's how I figured out how to build offers. Was I just started asking, like, okay, what if I had this in it? Would that do something for you? Like whatever. And then it just became this thing of like, let's just add as much value as I can. And then what is that threshold?
With those answers, right? You keep asking questions. See, the entrepreneur, the offer and the product isn't about the entrepreneur. And I think we like to stay in a lab and brainstorm and think that stuff through and perfect it and then launch it. And then it goes, because you haven't gotten ahead of your buyer. You don't really understand the words they use, how they think, and what sort of impact they're looking for you to have. Like, you got to be customer obsessed. And it's cliched at this point, but because that gets said so often, but it really is true. Like, your ego's got to die. You got to figure out what your people need that you want to provide. And you only do that by asking really effective questions. And that sounds like that's what you're doing.
Yeah, again, I stumbled upon it just because I was naturally, like, I was a sales guy. I was a sales guy first, then I learned marketing, and then I kind of figured out how to bridge the gap between the two of them. And I like, if I had to like self-assign myself, I think I'm more of a marketer than I am a salesperson at this point. Which is, if you would have told me that back in the corporate days, I would have told you, you're fucking nuts. Right. But I got obsessed with the customer journey. Like, even when I was in the corporate space, I was really interested in, okay, what happens when they get to this place? Yeah. Like, what new problem? Because every offer you do, like even working with you for 6 months, like they're going to get their first client. Let's say it's, they made 10 grand. They're like, oh my God, like, thank you so much. Okay, but what's the new problem they're going to have? Right. Because you took a problem away. Now they don't have a new one. So what's that next thing? And so that's where my mind always goes. But I guess that's technically like, again, marketing, not sales. Maybe it's a little bit of both. I wanted to ask you kind of a silly question. Okay, so again, I know you work with people that are service-based and product-based, but do you have a preferred thing, like working with people product-based versus service-based? I fucking hate product-based. Like that shit. Like, again, I love you if you're listening to this and you're product-based, but it bores me.
Yeah, no. I mean, we could do that. I haven't. Almost all of my clients are service-based. And I honestly, my secret is I love B2B. I'm cool with B2C. Like, if you want to be a coach or you want to impact people's lives on a personal level. I get that, but I think B2B sales is really fun, and you're dealing with an entirely different kind of psychology and an entirely different budget, entirely different zeros on the ends.
Hmm.
I get really excited about having people take what they've learned in corporate, looking at their resume and saying, "Man, what numbers did I move at this business?" And then saying, "Okay, I can go move that number at 20 other businesses," and packaging that up and like quadrupling what you make because they've got budget for that. They want to bring in people who can help them with their problems in short, concentrated, um, little moments of time. So I'm a big fan of B2B on the service side. I think it's great.
Yeah, I haven't gotten too much into it. Like again, we do some consulting on the sales side. I don't offer it as much, but it was funny because my first big deal was with I can say it was with SAP,
Yeah.
and I went and did a workshop for them, and it took basically a month for them to agree on terms and whatever. I was like, oh, cool. Like I was so new that I was like new to that space anyway, that I was like, oh, I'm gonna get the money like today or whatever. 6 months later, right? Like,
Yeah.
but I didn't understand that process at all. And it was so funny. Even the guy that brought me in on the deal, I didn't know how to price it. And this is why it's important to get a coach like you, right? That's done it, because
Right.
I didn't know how to price it at all. And so I was like, I'll fly out, I'll do this. I was just excited to I was just thinking in my head, like I could put SAP on my website, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I forgot the exact number, but I basically said like, I'll do it all like basically for $5,000. And he goes, my budget's 15. And I go, all right, cool. Like, I'll do it for 5. And he was like, my budget is 15. And I go, oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you. And I literally was like, dude, thank you so much. Like, you helped me. Like, you walked me through that whole thing.
Odds are, if you're getting started in B2B, you're already underpricing yourself because it's a funny game because they've got a budget, and if they don't spend it, they don't get that budget back. So your budget owner wants to spend that money, and for them, $5,000 is like change stuck between the cushions. Now, when you're in B2C, and like that $5,000 was the vacation fund, but I've decided I need coaching instead, or that $5,000 has got to come out of savings, or whatever it is. But on B2B, that money is allocated. You just have to understand how to have those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Keith, man, we already went an hour, dude. I'm sorry, I kept you a little long, so I apologize.
No, it's great.
Yeah, this was tons of fun. Anything final you want to kind of leave off with? Again, I'll have like all your stuff in the description and whatnot, but
No, man, total pleasure. If anybody wants to reach out to me, I don't have a website yet, so find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to talk to anybody about just about anything. I love what I do.
yeah. Well, I got your landing page. We'll put it up.
Cool.
When do you think the website will be done? I'm excited to see it.
A couple months. Just hired a marketing agency. The contract's sitting in my inbox. Probably end of February, it should be up.
Okay, dude, that's gonna be great. Again, that's like when it comes to like websites, email marketing, and all that stuff, and again, we'll talk offline about it. But I think the biggest thing for me has been like it's a great way to nurture the people, and it's one of those beautiful things, dude, where it's like you just wake up one day and then you have like a client going, "Hey, let's get started," and you're like, "Wait, what?" But it's the work that was taking place without you knowing for the last like 6 months, you know? So anyway, I appreciate you staying on. Thank you all for listening. Appreciate it. And we'll talk to you later, man.